We are focusing on the Nalanda University campus that was inaugurated today by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Bihar. Before we speak about Nalanda University and the significance of reviving this world-class university once again after 800 years, let's take a deep dive into the history of Nalanda University. Nalanda is the name that is derived from the Sanskrit word Nalanda. Nalam means lotus, which is the symbol for light or knowledge, and Da means to give. This is the modern city Rajgir, which means the city of kines, which was the first capital of the ancient kingdom of Magad, one of the 16 Mahajanpad, as which evolved into the Mauryan Empire. Early Buddhist texts state that Buddha visited a town near Rajagira called Nalanda on his peregrinations. He held discourses at a nearby mango grove named Pavarika. This excavation that you see on the screen at Jufavradid site, which is about 3 kilometers from Nalanda, the blackware that you see on your screens was carbon dated back to about 1200 BCE. This suggested that the region around Nalanda had human settlement centuries before the birth of Mahavir and the Buddha. The Nalanda University was established in 427 CE by Kumaragupta of the Gupta dynasty in the 5th century CE. This seal was recovered at the site that claims a king called Shakraditya as the temple's creator and credits him with the establishment of a Sangharama or a monastery. Some historians even believe that Kumagupta I and Shakraditya were the same person. After the decline of the Gupta Empire, the most notable patron of Nalanda was Harsha, who granted 100 villages and directed 200 households from the villages to supply the institution's monks with daily supplies of food. It is said to have supported over 1,500 faculty and 10,000 student monks. The school attracted scholars and students from Tibet, China, Korea, and other parts of Central Asia. This archaeological evidence notes that Balaputra Deva, a Shailendra dynasty king from modern India, Indonesia, built a monastery in the complex as well. Pilgrim monks such as Xuanzang, a 7th century Chinese Buddhist monk and scholar, and Yi Jing, who was another Chinese traveler, spent significant years at Nalanda to practice and collect true teachings of the Buddha. The Nalanda University is said to have housed the world's largest library, which was 9 stories high, housing around 9 million books on grammar, logic, literature, astrology, astronomy, and medicine. Some of the most notable historical figures associated with Nalanda include Aryabhat, the father of Indian mathematics, headed the university in the 6th century BCE. Nagarjuna, one of the most important Buddhist philosophers and the greatest thinkers in history, was also a student of Nalanda. Aryadev, who was a disciple of Nagarjuna, considered to be the second most important figure in Indian Madhyamaka school. Asanga, one of the most important spiritual figures of Mahayana Buddhism and founder of Yogacara school. Chandra Agomina, an Indian Buddhist lay scholar and poet from the Varendra region of East Bengal. It was at the end of the 12th century when invader Bakhtiyar Khalji demolished the monastery, killed the monks, and burnt the library. It is said that the university was set on fire for 3 long months.
शिक्षा को लेकर, एजुकेशन को लेकर, शिक्षा को लेकर, एजुकेशन को लेकर यही भारत की सोच रही है। शिक्षा सीमाओं से परे है, नफा नुकसान के नजरिए से भी परे है। शिक्षा ही हमें गढ़ती है, विचार देती है और उसे आकार देती है। प्राचीन नालंदा में बच्चों का एडमिशन, उनकी पहचान, उनकी नेशनलिटी को देखकर नहीं होता था। हर देश, हर वर्ग के युवा यहां आते थे। नालंदा विश्वविद्यालय के इस नए कैंपस में हमें उसी प्राचीन व्यवस्था को फिर से आधुनिक रूप में मजबूती देनी है।
That was Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He has his commitment to make Nalanda the largest university of imparting knowledge and education to the rest of the world. But taking a look closely at the Nalanda University, and the ruins have been excavated by the Archaeological Survey of India, and there were a number of archaeologists from time immemorial, especially during the British era in the 1800s, who built these maps, who made these maps, who drew them all to actually reveal the magnanimity and the enormity of Nalanda University. And here's on your screen one of such maps. This map shows some of the many monasteries that had been built during the time of Buddha. This is monastery 4 and 5, 7, 9, 11. There are also, and they have also have the, you have a number of monasteries, 1 up till 11, and there were several others which obviously could not be identified because of large scale demolition that took place. Remember, the entire Nalanda University spanning hundreds and hundreds of acres was destroyed during the Khilji era. A number of temples, if you take a look, there are temple number 3, temple number 12, 13, 14, and like I said, again monasteries that have been counted at the bottom, and it also showcases tourist entrances, and this reflects, you know, an amalgamation of religions. It was the Hindu religion that was celebrated, and then we also had the monasteries where Buddhism was propagated. So religions, irrespective of which gods they worshipped, which gods they prayed to, were celebrated. These religions flourished alongside each other without any enmities. And here's a look at, once again, these are the ruins of Nalanda, and these are amongst the latest pictures before the Nalanda University was once again established, which was inauguration was done by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And we take a look at, these are the locations of the temples and the monasteries that lay side by side of each other, where education was imparted, where religious scriptures were written, and a library amassing a number of subjects where authors, where teachers, professors, gurus, sages, they all came together, monks, they all came together and filled those libraries with all the knowledge that they had to impart to people who came from various parts of the world to come and study at Nalanda. Here's also a look at the full compound, and this has been deciphered, the map has been deciphered by the Archaeological Survey of India, and here you see actually the compound wall, which is circular in shape, and there you have the stupa temple tank. We have a tree grove over there. There are a number of these tanks, and there are roads that have also been depicted. There are temples over here. There's agricultural land. So this is a very self-sufficient compound that had been created, that had the Buddhists, that had the Hindu teachers, scholars, all studied. There were students, they all studied together, lived over there for months and months, where they were imparted education and knowledge. These are inside the monastery, or the Mahaviras as they were called. Now inside the monasteries we saw columns of toe wall enclosing the courtyards. There is one of the hearths that you can see. There's a well with a platform. So this is the architectural marvel of Nalanda University. This is again a recess at the entrance. This is a courtyard, and this is the platform in the courtyard, and this an amphitheater kind of a structure that was built where the students would sit all across, and that this would be the place of the teacher or the professor or the monk who would then impart knowledge, who would then teach these students on varied subjects, whether it's literature or religion, astronomy, and many of these subjects. These shrines along the arm of the quadrangle, there are shrines in the courtyard, there are cells, rooms, and rooms of scholars who used to live over there permanently. There is an entrance vestibule whose image we also see, and these are again the cells or the rooms of a number of scholars, and this is of course courtesy the Archaeological Survey of India. Now let's take a look at the discoveries that the Archaeological Survey of India has done after the excavations that went on for years and years together, and this is exactly what they found. And the ASI has a number of these images. There is a granary which shows that obviously when there are teachers and scholars who come and teach over there, they are living over there permanently, and there are students who come in hundreds and hundreds of number. There have to be storage facilities for grains and for other food items for consumption. One of the shrine mounds, like I said, there are the monasteries and the temples, and these mounds have been studied. The excavations have been done and understood to have been 800 years old. Evidence of burning of this site. So here you see a brick wall, and the darker, these are the charred remains of the brick wall that give us an estimate, that give us an indication that during the Khilji dynasty, Bakhtiyar Khilji, who of the Delhi Sultanate, who burnt down Nalanda University. This is the 5th, 6th and the 7th layer of expansion of one segment, one part of the Nalanda University. Let's take a look at the next image as well. And this is also, this is very interesting an analysis. Perhaps not too many people would have seen these images or tried to understand it, and that's exactly our initiative, to educate people. Now this is one of the compound walls. So the compound that we had shown, which was circular in nature and within which existed Nalanda University, these are the structures that formed the compound wall of the university. There is the stupas at the old wall, a number of these stupas that had been erected, and this showcases the kind of architecture that was used to build this ancient university. This is one of the monasteries, or the viharas as they were called, at the site, and we see a number of these elevated platforms, and these platforms were again used by the teacher or the scholar or the monks, who would then address large number of students in this entire monastery, in this entire expanse, and give teachings and impart teachings. Now this is Dipankar Buddha, and a number of these statues, these engravings have been found of gods, of a number of monks, and this one being and this is one of the defaced statues of the Buddha who attained nirvana in the monastery in Nalanda University. Rahula's inheritance. Again, we are showing you a lot of pictures, and these have been, these statues would have not been discovered but for the efforts of the Archaeological Survey of India, which has excavated them and which have been now revealed, and also for public knowledge. There are a lot of visits, touristic visits that take place at the ruins of Nalanda University that showcase us and reveal to us this 800-year-old rich history, culture and heritage of of the university. Now let's take a look at the new Nalanda campus that has been built at a cost of crores and crores of rupees, and here you see the huge Nalanda campus, and it is built along the riverside, and you see the green expanse which has forests in the area. So it has been ensured that the Nalanda University is of a position at a position which is surrounded by water, which is surrounded by the river, and also you have the forest area. This is the main entry of the campus. This campus was inaugurated today, and it is majestic in stature, and you also have a water fountain over there, a water body that has been created for a more aesthetic look. Remember, this is a university that has been built with international standards in mind. So everything is top notch, and these are the new academic buildings that have been built. And these beautiful structures are of course surrounded by the rivers, and like we saw, there is a huge forest area. So it keeps the campus calm, serene, even like less hot than the rest of the area because of being surrounded by water bodies. This is a 25-seater classroom which has been built, and there are several hundreds and hundreds of these classrooms that have been set up. So it's an aesthetic design that has been kept in mind when the architects built this as a blueprint, and now obviously this is examinations. This is one of the examination centers. This of course showcases the state-of-the-art architecture, the interiors that have been very painstakingly thought out, and then execution has been done in the most impeccable style. And reflective, once again, like I said, the university that is going to be catering to hundreds and thousands of students, not just from within the country but across the globe. Again, meeting and discussion rooms that have been set up over here. Let's take a look at some other of these pictures where this is one of the many faculty offices that have been set up at the campus. There are laboratories for students who would be studying science, biology, chemistry, 100-seater mini auditoriums that have also been set up, dozens and dozens in number. Sushma Swaraj Auditorium at the southern side, dedicated to the late defense minister of our country. And there are a number of guest houses that have been set up as well, and this is one of the several of these guest houses where the students can live during the duration of their stay at the campus. This is also the International Center. This is guest house number 2. Now this is a brick-laden walls that have been built, very aesthetic in their look, for convenience of the students, so that they live comfortably and have no dearth of resources. This is now this is another majestic site, and this is the grand amphitheater right in the heart of the Nalanda University campus. It has a capacity of 2,000 spectators, and what a beautiful design that has been built in the center, in the heart of the river. Administrative building at the eastern part of the campus, and look at this beautiful image. All right, so now that we have taken a look at this beautiful new campus costing crores of rupees and has been inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, let's quickly have a word with all my panelists. You know, there are historians, archaeologists who have joined us especially for this very important, unique telecast. And on the telecast right now, Dr. Bijoy Kumar Chaudhary is the Executive Director, Bihar Heritage Development Society. Dr. Bijoy, if you could shed more light into the 800-year-old history of Nalanda University. We've tried to, encompass as much as we could in this short synopsis that we have provided, in a short presentation. There is, of course, much more to be deciphered and get educated about and discover about Nalanda, and if you could shed light into it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, this monastery of Nalanda was built in 5th century CE. And remember, when Oxford University came into being around 1100 and Cambridge University in 1200 CE, Nalanda University had already spent a career of 800 years. So, in fact, this university is 1500 years old, and it continued to exist about 800 years. And remember, when we struggle now to maintain the excellence of an institution, say for 20 years or 30 years, this institution remained a center of excellence throughout Asia for 800 years. Not only students from China, Japan, and other distant regions came here to study, but also the Asian dynasties vied with each other to connect their name with Nalanda. Such was the importance of Nalanda in the contemporary world of ancient times. And for example, you mentioned that King Balputra Dev from Suvarn Desh, which is co-terminus with Indonesia now, he built a monastery for the Indonesian monks coming to Nalanda, and he requested his contemporary Indian ruler Devpal to donate 5 villages, the revenue of these 5 villages, for the upkeep of Nalanda. So, in fact, Nalanda was a great center, not only for the learning of Mahayana Buddhism, to which it was primarily devoted, but it also taught Vedas, which formed an alternative or even a rival tradition of that time. It also taught medicine and other branches. And the cosmopolitan nature of the ancient Nalanda University is much to be admired about. I will give you an instance. There is a 9th century inscription of Devpal again, which says that a gentleman called Bir Dev, who came all the way from a place called Nagarhar, which would be now along the boundary between Pakistan and Afghanistan in Swat Valley. And he came and stayed in a lesser monastery of that time called Yasobarnpur. But soon his academic fame, his austerity became very well known, and the monks of Nalanda appointed him as the chancellor of that university. So there was no son of soil filling. A person coming from as distant a region as Nagarhar could become the head of this Nalanda University.
Yes.
And we, yeah.
Dr. Bijay, there have been excavations and discoveries that have been done by the Archaeological Survey of India. In fact, there had been excavators from the British era who would come and study this site. There have been travelers from China who have written about the Nalanda University and we've been able to find their texts, we've been able to decipher these texts, and now it's public knowledge. Why has it taken so long for and is there now even an opportunity for tourists to visit Nalanda and absorb the sights and scenes?
Yeah, actually, you see, soon after its decline in 13th century, Nalanda University went into oblivion. In fact, Buddhism, to which this institution was primarily affiliated to, itself declined in the mainland India. And the extent of amnesia was so high that when a British traveler, Buchanan Hamilton, visited Bargaon, the site of Nalanda ruins now, he was told that these ruins, the heaps of bricks, the sculptures, they belong to the King Vidarbha of the Mahabharata fame. So, and then, as you rightly said, that Chinese traveler Xuanzang visited Nalanda in 1630s, and he left a detailed account. And the English translation of this account was published in the beginning of 1850s. And there, Cunningham, the pioneer of archaeology in India, he caught hold of that translation. And in that account, it was written that from Rajgri, the distance of Nalanda is so much. And when he reached at the site, he found two seals, inscribed seals, and both these seals read Sri Nalanda Mahabihar Vikshu Sanghasya. And that is how that the identification of Nalanda Mahabihar was cleansed in 1861.
When we take a look at the site, even the Nalanda ruins, as well as the new university that has been set up, it is surrounded by water bodies. There is a huge expanse of forest area that has also been kept. So it's a self-sustaining ecosystem in its own, where the idea is for scholars, professors from across the world coming and settling over there, and students also from across the globe coming and living over there for a certain period of time till their curriculum allows, and be imparted with knowledge and education in different subjects.
True, you're right that there are huge water reservoirs around the Nalanda Mahabihar, and some of the water reservoirs extend up to an area of 100 acres. So the recent researches in Buddhist institutions, they have demonstrated that these monasteries not only imparted education and did the religious duties, they also managed the irrigation system around their surroundings, and also other humanitarian works they did. That was their USP, and that is how they maintained their respectability in the surrounding society. And yes, that is the spirit of Nalanda. The ancient Nalanda had that spirit of cosmopolitanism. Imagine an institution in the state of Bihar from 5th, 6th century to 12th, 13th century, where ethnicities of different regions were collected, and they, in the spirit of coexistence, studied, taught. I will just give you another piece of information also. Not only Nalanda Mahabihar, but there are several Buddhist monasteries, ancient Buddhist monasteries in the proximity of Nalanda Mahabihar, which also gave education, and from where we also get evidence that people from different regions, from different nationalities came and studied. So that is the spirit of Nalanda, and the present Nalanda University is sure to live up to that spirit of Nalanda.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Bijay. Stay on with me. I also have with me KK Mohammed. He's an archaeologist. He joins me on the telecast. KK Mohammed, thank you very much for joining us, for sitting with us. And of course, the big question, what has the Archaeological Survey of India discovered while excavating the Nalanda site?
Has been excavating the site right from 1861 onwards, because it was for the first time the site was identified as Nalanda in 1861, although in 1811 it was located. But at that time it was not aware that it is the great Nalanda University site. Since then, the excavation has been going on for a long time, and periodically we had taken up the excavation also, and the major part of the conservation work also. And now there are 6 temples that have been excavated and 11 monasteries on the other side, which means it is only 70% of the whole complex. The rest of the portion is completely buried in the villages all around it. So what the government of India has to do is that the government of India should give priority for acquiring the land all around, so that the rest of the 30% can also be excavated.
Okay.
It would be one of the greatest universities, because Bologna University in Italy, that was established in 10th century, Oxford University in 11th and 12th century, Cambridge University in 13th century, and well before that, 700, 600 years before that, we had such a great university with three great libraries in Dharmaganja, Ratnaudadi, Ratnasagara, and all these libraries were also there. And it was completely destroyed by Bhakti Khilji when he attacked the whole the Nalanda University.
KK Mohammed, if you could also shed light on the significance of Nalanda University to the rest of the world.
See, as far as this one is concerned, because of number one, exploration, number two, excavation, and number three, conservation of the whole monument. Conservation means, it should be maintained as it was, as we have got from the excavation. These are the three things which the Archaeological Survey of India has done so far, and also the landscaping the whole India. And that was a second part of the Archaeological Survey of India effort. Now, what I propose is, because whenever a person comes to Nalanda University, they of course walk over the entire thing, they see the whole thing. But before that, they should be taken to an interpretation center, where there should be a small documentary movie about Nalanda University only for 15 minutes, not much more than that, but only for 15 minutes. So that they have to have the necessary background of the university which they propose to see. And from that point, they should be picked up by a very well informed guide. So if you go along with the informed guide, with this background documentary, then that guide would be able to put a tongue in each and every stone. And then the stones will talk to the people. So by the time they come back from the university complex, it would be a kind of experiential experience for them. It would be a kind of thrilling experience for them. The fact that they had a university 500, 600 years before Bologna University, before Oxford University, before Cambridge University, that itself would be a very valuable information. And the great Buddha, he used to come and stay at Nalanda. At that time, it was a small pathshala.
Now, more importantly, why do you think it has taken so long to rebuild this world-renowned university?
It depends upon the government of India. They should have shown the vision and also the dynamism. If they had taken efforts to conserve the monument and they also excavate the monument, it could have been done. And that needs vision also, a greater vision and a grand vision for that one. And also the dynamism that is essential for that one. So whichever government is in power, they should come forward for all these things.
What has been done by the Archaeological Survey of India to preserve the rich history of Nalanda?
Covered that one. Mostly one is exploration, second thing is excavation, and the third thing is conservation of the monument. And for the interpretation of the monument, I have proposed this one, that is, we have to have the interpretation center. Then we have to have some sound and light program also, so that the majesty of the whole monument, of the great institution, that can be conveyed to the people. There we are actually lacking. The government should come forward for taking, the interest in all these things, which of course is not this one happening now. That there we have gone back.
Thank you, KK Mohammed, for joining us. Stay on with us on the telecast. I'm also being joined by Vipul B. Varshenya. She's a historian, author and principal architect of Sthapati. Thank you very much, Ms. Vipul. And you've heard it from Dr. Bijay. We've spoken to KK Mohammed. He's part of the Archaeological Survey of India. Now, we must also want to understand about the importance, the significance of the university, and why has it been lost to the world? Because when we talk about the Oxford and the other Ivy Leagues, they are much, much older than the Nalanda University that had been established.
Very true. Actually, as we all can see, it's another moment in history that's going to be demarcated today. But otherwise, the 1600-year-old university, the oldest in the world, as we all have discussed just now, it's basically the stream of invaders. As we all came to know, in fact, we are aware that it was built in 427 by Kumar Gupta of Gupta dynasty, and it was again patronized by Samudragupta and the rulers afterwards. And after the Guptas, it was looked after by Harshvardhan of Kannauj dynasty of Kannauj, that place in UP, and then the Palas. They also patronize it, in spite of the fact they were from Hinayan Buddhism, which is different from Mahayana Buddhism. But still, it was patronized. But at various times in history, it had been attacked and damaged by invaders. We could see that, first of all, it was by Hunas. At the time of Mihir Kula, it was attacked. That was the first attack, and it was damaged tremendously. Then again by Gaudas in the 17th century, it was again damaged. And as we have come to know that it was rebuilt again and again on the ruins, on the ashes of the previous remains. But again, the final blow which came up was in 1193 when it was invaded by Bakhtiyar Khilji, an Afghan Turk who invaded India. And that was the last thing which, in fact, some very popular is not the true word. In fact, the stories which revolve around why he, in fact, burnt the whole university, and it took 3 months to build, in fact, burn the whole lot of books, 9 million books, which were there in the library, that he couldn't find the Quran. In fact, he wanted Quran, and there was not a copy of Quran over there. That's one story. Another story is that he was, in fact, cured by a Buddhist monk, which the disease he was suffering from, and not by his own doctor. A very famous monk, a very gentle monk by the name of Rahul Sri Bhadra. He treated him, and he was cured of the disease. And what a sadistic attitude. He got angry, and he burned the whole university, the whole campus, the whole precinct, out of his revengeful attitude.
Okay. So then, Ms. Vipul, now when we talk about the Indian Renaissance and we talk about the science and technology where we are excelling, whether we talk about the Chandrayaan-3 mission that has been successful, which is 1/9, 1/10 of the cost of a number of these missions and space missions that are launched by the Americans or the Russians or the Chinese. When we talk about the cultural renaissance, when we talk about the educational, spiritual renaissance, something that has been part of India for thousands of centuries is today being propagated across the globe. The world is waking up to what India stands for, what India symbolizes, and the Nalanda University is one such strong pillar of the Indian Punarjagaran, if I may call it.
Very true. And in fact, this is one moment in history which would, in fact, bring in the lost glory of this great university, which was very much the center of learning for the whole world. And in fact, the whole globe and the mission and the vision which it has behind its revival and behind its new campus is something similar, that to impart those great teachings, that great to become again the center of learning for the whole world. And it has various faculties, as you have already told, like from astronomy, from astrology, conservation, then environment, and the modern subjects, as well as the old philosophies and theology. So it's a combination of modernism and ancient wisdom that would it become the center of learning.
Thank you, Ms. Vipul. Stay on with me. I have with me another guest, and Ramanand Sen Gupta. He's a historian and international affairs expert. And Ramanand Sen Gupta, let's hear it from you as well. What's your take on the Nalanda University that has been rebuilt, but at the same time, the conservation of the ruins of Nalanda, which tell the world the difficult story of how about, of course, the glory of India, and about the knowledge that had been imparted by the scholars, by the monks, and they were the best of the best across the globe. And the devastation, and because of the tyranny of an invader, of an Afghan invader by the name of Khilji, this destruction happened that brought the Nalanda University, the center of excellence in education, the number one, the most ancient university across the globe, down to ruin.
I would look at it from another perspective, which is that we have all these great libraries, for instance, the one at Alexandria that was also burnt down, and that's, immense loss to humanity. But let's just compare, the Nalanda of yesteryears with the Nalanda that is coming up now. From the perspective of scholarship and, development of knowledge, the period that we had Nalanda was truly the golden era in India. You had really great centers of learning across the country. You had Nalanda, you had Vikramashila, Udantapuri in Bihar, Jagdala and Sompura in Bengal, Pushpagira in Odisha, Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, Nagarjuna Konda in Andhra Pradesh, Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu, Mainakheta in Karnataka, Vallabhi in Gujarat, Shardapita in Kashmir, and of course Takshila now in Pakistan. That's just some of the universities that were existing at that time. Now, in those days, Nalanda provided free accommodation, free education to all those interested in pursuing knowledge, or, in the true Indian sense, Vidya. So, apart from people from various corners of India, you had students from Tibet, China, Japan, Sri Lanka, Java, Sumatra, Korea, Indonesia, Iran, Turkey, Greece. And the subjects that were taught there included grammar, logic, astronomy, astrology, medicine, mathematics, Vedas, and this included the Vedangas, or the limbs of the Vedas, yoga, and darshana, which loosely translates into philosophy. This time, when the PM went to inaugurate the new Nalanda, there were, I think, 17 participating countries. You had Australia, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Brunei, Darussalam, Cambodia, China, Indonesia, Laos, Mauritius, Myanmar, New Zealand, Portugal, Singapore, South Korea, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam.
Yes.
All the ambassadors of these countries were there at Nalanda. It's interesting that, this new campus that they built up is a net zero green campus. So they have 100 acres of water bodies, which are called Kamal Sagar ponds, a huge on-grid solar plant, domestic, and drinking water treatment plant, as well as 100 acres of green cover. And it is also important to note that the university has a 250-seat capacity of a yoga center, an auditorium, an archival. But, if you want to compare the two, of course, the time and the periods are very different. So subjects will definitely be different. So the subjects this time on offer are postgraduate and doctoral programs in Buddhist studies, philosophy, comparative religions, languages and literature, ecology and environmental studies, sustainable development and environment, and international relations and peace studies. And we have students from, I think, about 20 countries enrolled in various courses. So comparatively, if you look at it, we're still very far away from what the original Nalanda used to be.
Right. And talking about the architectural style, and it's a marvel.
Absolutely.
I think the essence of Nalanda, the origin of the name Nalam, which is the lotus, is
That's right.
is what Nalanda means essentially, and that I think that has been kept in mind, because you see this beautiful, stupendous building that has been built, the structure that has been built,
That's
and
right.
it is right in the middle of the water body, the reservoirs that have been built, and there's the forest area,
That's right.
which then signify, it completely, if you translate Nalam, Nalanda, which is the lotus, right in the middle of the water body.
Yes,
So-
that's a big thing to do, of course. But what I was trying to say is that the periods are different. So obviously, you won't have some of the subjects that are taught then. But I think the word Nalanda actually means sort of limitless, so sort of or in another way, you could call it boundless magnanimity. It's also interesting to note that anybody who wanted to come there and study could, provided they went through the exam that took place for the thing. You had to be, of course, fluent in Sanskrit, which was very important in those days.
Yeah.
One of the things that people don't really realize that, even Yuan Sang, when he came here, I think in the 7th century or something, he speculated that the Buddha might have been the king of Nalanda in one of his previous births. So, imagine a Chinese scholar coming and talking about Buddha being a king of Nalanda in those days. And then you had Harshavardhan, who was the king of Kankyabhuj, who basically what he did was he reserved, I think, the income from about 100 villages around Nalanda to pay for Nalanda's upkeep.
Yeah. Also, when you talk about, a center of excellence in education for the world, and
Right.
you had the best of the scholars, the monks, the teachers, and
Absolutely.
their stature was well established, because when you had the likes of Aryabhat, who was a student of Nalanda, you have Nagarjun, you have I have a list of these, Aryadev, who was a disciple of
That's right.
Nagarjun, Asanga,
Yes.
you have Chandragomnia. So when these names were spoken about, talked about across the globe in various continents and countries, it was a well-established fact that Nalanda was a university to be reckoned with, that people from far and wide
absolutely.
countries used to come. So today, in contrast, how do we build that benchmark? There, that you have the best of the professors and the best of the educators to attract people from across the globe, because the Ivy Leagues, they have that stamp, and you have the presidents and the prime ministers of across the globe, and various Nobel winning laureates who have studied from all these universities. So you have a stamp that, listen, this is our track record. Unfortunately, we have lost that track record of the Nalanda University that was about 1500 years old. How do we rebuild
That's right.
that stature?
You see, that is not going to be an easy thing to do right at this moment, mainly because we must realize that Nalanda didn't acquire its reputation overnight. It took a while for all the scholars to gather there and, put the word out that all these learned people were living there. But just as an aside, one of the things I just remembered is that, when we were talking about the burning of all these manuscripts and all that, by all these invaders who came in and started demolishing centers of learning, a whole bunch of Buddhist monks who used to work there, they took these, whatever they could in terms of, scriptures and things that they made, they took it back to Tibet. But unfortunately, the Chinese came, and when Chinese invaded Tibet, they attacked and they also burned down whatever these guys had taken there.
Yes.
It was sort of a double whammy. And it's a very sad state of affairs when you attack knowledge as such. So one of the things we must ensure that all these things that are taught and all the things that still remain from the ancient Nalanda era are either digitized or kept in a way that they cannot be sort of, burnt down by any random hooligan who comes down and decides to sort of, take it off. That's very important, because otherwise that whole chunk of history just gone.
Yeah, it is. It is
You're
unfortunate.
talking about reviving the educational sort of, excellence that the Ivy League colleges and all these Cambridges and Oxfords and all these states have. That unfortunately is going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. Just like, as I said, Nalanda itself took some time but it can be done, provided, of course, we agree on what exactly you want to impart. It cannot be a free-for-all for everybody. It has to have certain focus subject. Right now, it's mostly, what I would call the art stream. And it's important that, okay, if that's what you want to focus on, let it be that. But you must get the best in the world to do that.
Okay, Dr. Bijay, talking about the destruction that has been faced, particularly in northern part of the country, where the temples have been demolished, the monasteries have been demolished, the centers like Nalanda were demolished because of the Mughal era, because of the Delhi Sultanate, and then after, of course, the British came to rule. Something in contrast, this is not witnessed in the southern part of the country, which are still preserved. When you take a look at the temples and you take a look at the education centers, you take a look at the yoga centers, the Ayurveda centers. With this distinction in mind, how long do you think will it take for us to restore our culture, our heritage that we have lost behind, unfortunately, over the centuries?
Actually, I would like to clarify one point here, that the Buddhist institutions that we lost in the medieval period were not all, in fact, the outcome of a large-scale destruction. We should also realize that there was a transformation in the nature of Buddhism itself, because when the Buddhism had a transition from Mahayana form of Buddhism to Vajrayana form of Buddhism, which is a tantric form of Buddhism, the entire religion became very esoteric, and certain very weird kind of practices were being indulged into, and that really took the masses away from Buddhism. Secondly, as you rightly pointed out earlier, that Buddhist institutions had the ability to resurrect themselves. But what happened in the medieval period, that you didn't have the patronage. The medieval rulers never cared to patronize Buddhism. And for these institutions, for temples, for monasteries, to educational institutions included, if they have to survive, they need a very generous patronage. Remember that Nalanda Mahabihar not only got patronage from indigenous rulers like the Palas and the Guptas that you mentioned, but also from the Asian kingdoms far off from Nalanda. That patronage, in fact, infused lifeblood into Nalanda Mahabihar.
Yes.
And that patronage was absent during the medieval times.
Yeah. Also, it will be impossible for having a university, a center of education and knowledge that is hundreds and hundreds of acres, and you have free education, you have food, you have lodging, you have shelter being given to you, your education is being imparted, and you have the scholars and the students living all together. And to maintain it all, of course, takes up, like you said, patronage from the kings, not just the Indian kings, but also dynasties and empires from across the globe, and especially the neighboring countries. All right.
I think very importantly, this is very happy coincidence that, like the ancient Nalanda Mahabihar, the present Nalanda University is also supposed to have the support not only from the Indian state, but also from
yes, the 17 other countries. Yes, there are multilateral agreements that have been signed. So
the basic scheme of things, in a way, looks so identical.
Yeah.
The state of Bihar itself has been generous enough to provide about 450 acres of land to the campus of Nalanda University, which is a huge area given the scarcity of land these days. So the beginnings really are promising, and let us hope that the quantum of patronage really comes to Nalanda University unhindered. And for that, Nalanda University itself will have to set a very high standard.
Yeah.
Remember that old Nalanda University, the ancient Nalanda University, was such a cosmopolitan institution.
Right, absolutely. Yes, you mentioned that point. Yeah, and that's the essence of building this, if I could say, Vishwa University. Is something. That's commitment that has been made by the government of India today when this establishment has been built and now inaugurated as well. I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.